Right, hello. Um, One or two of you who've looked at my YouTube channel have asked me if I'll talk a bit about how I approach playing tunes, um, and I've agreed to do it. I really don't know how I'm going to do it. I've never done this before. I'm not very good at talking. I'm not a man of words. Um, I suppose I better explain something about my background. It's a pretty musical background, really, I suppose. I was brought up in Durham, just on the outskirts of Durham City, and Durham is full of, or was, full of coal mines, and every pit had a brass band, and so I'd often hear brass bands either marching through the street, practicing, or playing at village fetes or whatever. Um, and also, my dad had an allotment, and I would help him on the allotment, and it was fairly close to the Durham Light Infantry Brass Band Hall. Although I call it a hall, it was a wooden hut, and it wasn't very soundproof, so I could hear everything that went on in it. And Also the Salvation Army, who used to bring their brass band around the streets, or sometimes it would be a little harmonium. Um, but either way, I used to notice, I used to really enjoy the way all the instruments work together. But I particularly noticed the bass, the tubas, and the euphoniums, and so that's a big influence on the way I enjoy music. I suppose I listen out for all the harmony that goes on in the background. Um, I never liked the sound of these things at all, and I was a bit horrified when my wife bought one uh, with the intention of learning to play for a Morris team. And she tried to play it and couldn't make head or tail of it, and I picked it up and managed to knock one or two tunes out of it. I'm going back about probably 50 years now. But As a result of being able to play two or three tunes, it was in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man's king. And so I got the job of playing for this dance team, and got thoroughly bored with the tunes, and tried to work out ways of making life a bit more interesting for myself, I suppose, and by extension, hopefully more interesting for the audience as well. I don't know about that, but anyway, I'd learnt the piano when I was about 6, or started to learn it, but I gave up because I couldn't read music. I just couldn't cope with it at all. I could hear in my brain exactly what I wanted to play, and I hated having to go through this medium of a sheet of print in front of me and doing exactly what it said. I didn't want to do exactly what it said anyway, and so I just absolutely rebelled against the piano. But when I got a Melodeon, I found out, of course, as everybody knows, it's a completely different kettle of fish. But One thing, of course, you can do on a piano is you use all your fingers, and including your thumb, and you play chords and tunes and counter melodies and all that kind of thing. And I wanted to do the same on this, and most people, I think, don't think of excuse me, the Melodeon in that kind of a way. But in fact, because of the way it's set up, with these two rows, I think is it a fifth apart, they say? I don't know. I don't know anything about music. But because of the way it's set up, playing chords on it with the right hand is in fact very easy. And not only that, it's better than on a piano in some ways, because on a piano your hand can compass about, I don't know, an octave and a bit maybe. On a Melodeon, because it's diatonic and because it's a push-pull instrument, the scales occupy very much less space, so your hand can cover 2 octaves, which means that you can be playing in 1 octave on it with your little finger, and an octave below with your first finger, which means you can make very rich sounding chords, because the chords come from a bigger range on the instrument. And another thing I realised pretty early on is that you absolutely can't learn the melody and then add the bass, which you can do with a piano accordion. You really have to, if you want the bass to sound nice, that is. And a lot of people don't care about the bass. But if you want the bass to sound right, you've got to work both hands together. And a result of that is that both hands get used to working together. And now, if somebody asks me to play a tune on the right hand only, I simply can't do it because my left hand is telling my right hand what to do. And in a similar way, your fingers are telling each other what to do as well. I don't know how many of you play the guitar. If you don't, you'll just have to take my word for it. But your hand can remember shapes much more easily than it can remember which individual buttons to be pressing. Don't know why that is, it just seems to be a fact. And another thing about the Melodeon, I was going to say before about the fifth apart business. It means that you can play adjacent buttons with one finger and still get a harmony. On a piano that would be very dissonant. But if you do this, I bring my finger down between two buttons but press both of them. You get two notes which are in harmony with each other. And the other thing you can do is lie your finger, first finger, down across both rows. Which means you can get two note harmonies just from your first finger a lot of the time. Which means that your second, third and fourth fingers are free to play the melody. Also, I don't know about you, but my brain tends to hear the melody in the top register, and it's the way most music's written. The melody line is the top line, and you can think of the lower lines as the basement and the walls, the buttresses, but the melody is the roof. That's the important bit. So you're playing the melody with your top two fingers, your third and fourth fingers, which some people find a bit strange, and perhaps it is, but it's a question of just making a start and getting used to it. It's easy to say it's easy, because now at this stage I do find it easy, but I remember, excuse me, I remember the day when I didn't find it easy. But anyway, it's just a matter of practice. And also it's a matter of making the practice as good fun as you can. So I think it's quite important to pick a tune that you really want to play. And that will provide you with enough impetus and energy to get cracking with it and work on it, rather than exercise one on the first page of an exercise book, which would bore you to tears, or would me anyway. Anyway, back to the the buttons. It's important to know your way around the bass end. I think a way in which I think about this is that it's not a double version of a four-stop one row. It's a completely different instrument. You can treat it as a one row if you want, of course, because you've got two separate rows, so it's you can play on one of them and call it a one row. But you've got all the basses you want here, not like on a one row where you've got two buttons, which as people say, well, one of them grunts and the other one farts, but and it is about the level of the musicality of it. But here you've got two scales after a fashion. Anyway, that's G and this is D. So everything's there. It's just a matter of making the right hand fit around it. So I play the melody mostly with my little finger and my third finger, and sometimes my middle finger, sometimes my first finger, but mostly it's at the top end of my hand, if you know what I mean. But I work them all in at once. So it's difficult for me to give a demonstration because I simply cannot play single note melodies. That's not the way I learn them. I tend to just experiment all the time, finding out what works and what doesn't work. and then what does work is kind of money in the bank for the particular tune that I'm learning, but also for then subsequent tunes as well. You become aware of chords you can play and techniques you can use that start applying to everything. So as the years go by, it gets easier and easier to just pick the thing up and start and just play a tune off the top of your head. So get to know the bass. You've got 4 bass notes and 4 chords. Don't be slavish about, I'm sounding dictatorial now, aren't I? But the way I look at it is I'm never slavish about going umpire through everything all the time. Sometimes I do that if that's what's needed, but I tend to be quite free about the bass and making it dovetail in with the melody quite a lot of the time. And you don't tend to notice which end is actually playing which notes, because some of the bass notes are coming from this end. I'm using my first finger, and sometimes they're coming from the left hand end. Oh yeah, another thing. No thirds. This box has thirds, but you can take them out with the button. If you can't take them out by pulling a button, I'd get a roll of sellotape and sellotape all the third reeds out on the bass end. That's what I've done with all my boxes. I don't think there's a single tune that I play which benefits from having thirds in the bass chords. The only advantage of having the thirds is you get a slight extra volume. But to quote Spencer Tracy, or to paraphrase Spencer Tracy, it's no good being wrong if you're wrong at the top of your voice. I've got to the stage now where I just can't stand thirds. It's a bit like weaning yourself off sugar in tea. Once you've managed to do it, you can't stand the taste of sugar anymore. So I can't cope with thirds. Sorry about my cough. So I feel obliged to sort of demonstrate a tune. I don't know how I'm going to do it, because it kind of means disassembling the tune and playing the bits of it, the individual bits of it, to show you how it all works together. But in reality, when I'm learning a tune, I learn it all at once. And I wouldn't put you all through the pain of how I do that, because it might take a week for me to learn a tune. And you might think, a week? That's a heck of a long time. Well, yeah, perhaps, but a week's a small portion of the rest of your life. And if it takes a week to learn a tune, then theoretically that's 52 tunes in a year. That's a pretty big repertoire. And if you've spent that week, I know most of you haven't got the luxury of being able to spend that much time on practicing your box, but in theory, if you were to spend that much time learning a tune, it would be pretty good by the end of the week. And professional musicians practice 8 hours a day. I'm not a professional musician. I'm a dabbler. I pick my box up when I can. I do go by the rule of never putting it back in its case. It's good to have it just handy when you think of an idea or a tune you might want to play. So I never put it away and just pick it up as and when I feel like it. But it doesn't amount to anything like enough time, really. One of the drawbacks about playing the way I play, I think, is that it tends to sound a little bit muddy. It's not quite as crisp as it would be if I just played single notes. Maybe that's because of the way I play. If I'd started playing when I was younger, I might have a better technique now, but I didn't. I started when I was, I think, in my early 30s, which is fine, but you never really make up the time that you lost between the age of 10 and 30 if you didn't start early. But anyway, that's a problem that I have. As I say, I think I play for a couple of Morris teams now, and my technique doesn't absolutely suit playing for Morris, but I think, well, it's okay, it works. And I like to think that the audience is listening as well as watching, and they deserve something nice to listen to if you can provide it. The dancers are only interested in themselves. They don't. If you bash a dustbin lid, that's fine for them, as long as you keep the rhythm going. And so I could be a better Morris musician if I just stuck to single notes and a steady rhythm. I like to make life interesting for myself and the listeners as well, if possible. So I don't know what to do about teaching a tune. As I say, it's hard to play the individual lines because they all come at once, and that's how I learned them. Well, I'll try. This will probably be disastrous, and you'll have to bear with me. But I'm just trying to think what to do. I'll Go and Enlist might be a good tune to start. I mean, it incorporates a few different techniques, perhaps. That worked all right. So that involved all four fingers, but mostly my third and fourth. But while my first finger is just hanging about doing nothing, it can find other work to do. So it's not slavishly playing harmonies with every single note, it's just when it's convenient to do so. I think that's what I do. So on the bass end, I'm just playing chords, not basses. And if I wanted to, and in fact what I do is I play the chords to begin with and then bring the basses in later. It kind of adds a bit of more of a dynamism to the tune. And also my first finger, instead of just playing one note harmonies, you can play two note harmonies by laying my finger down across both rows. So there are three notes there, played with two fingers. First finger is playing and together, and then my second finger is playing the melody note. So there, for that second passage, I'm just vamping, as most people do most of the time. Just single notes on the right hand for that bit. Again, just adding chords with the left hand. And there's a bit of a stagger there. Just adds a bit of interest. No, that was wrong. Again, bringing the basses in for the last two or three notes. that's my first finger doing two-note harmonies all. Sorry, that one, not that. Maybe try the B music. That's I think that's all second and third and fourth fingers. As I say, I'm struggling to play the a single line because my brain doesn't actually know where my fingers are going. My fingers all know, but they inform one another, and if I'm not bringing them all in at once, then they don't inform each other, and everything turns into chaos. Sorry, that's from the A music. So there, I'm only using the chords, and even then quite sparsely, but that adds to the effect of the whole tune, because it makes it, adds a bit of light and shade to the whole thing. So you're up in the clouds for that bit of the music, and then back down to earth with the basses in the next bit. So. But anyway, another trick you can use if you're using all fingers on the right hand end is you can stagger the harmonies a little bit. Trying to think of a demonstration of that. Yeah. So your right hand is doing exactly the same shapes as for the melody, as for the basic melody, but by staggering the fingers as you press the buttons, you can get. See, I can't do that unless I put my left hand in. And you can do the slows as well, I suppose. another thing you can do with the bass, because you can cross the rows, people often do that. But if you do it with your first and third fingers, it means your second finger is free to put in a kind of, I don't know, that'd be a musical term for it, but fill in the gaps. And now. Not useful in I'll go on a list, but just while it's in my head. Small Coins with Little Money, that's a tune where I use that. So another tune then. Again, making use of the fact that you've got the two rows a fifth apart, it's very easy to play those harmonies. Or you can bring your first finger down across both rows again. Sounds very medieval. So the introduction to the Small Coals and Little Money is sort of like Joe's got the lurgy, you know. So I'm just using my first finger on the chords, and then using both. So again, I'm staggering the harmony. Bring another. The tune proper. And then you can use straightforward chords instead. So there I'm just using my forefinger, first finger, across both rows just to provide a kind of a drone. So I'm just using a box standard technique. And then I can bring in a different harmony with my right hand if I want by. So in fact the harmonies with my first finger on my right hand are the same as on the bass end, but the bass end's doing that walking accompaniment, whereas the right hand's just keeping a drone going. So all the melody work's done with the third, fourth, and second, third and fourth fingers. I'm sure there's a lot more to say. If I think of anything more or any obvious things to say, I'll maybe do another video. But this technique lends itself quite well to playing in churches, which is what I was asked to do once. I'm not a religious person, but I do love hymns and the way the harmonies work in them. I was in a festival in Hungary once, and our team was asked to sing a typical English hymn, and the organist didn't know it, and so I ended up with the job of providing what would be the organ accompaniment on the box, and it just involves all of those techniques, really, I suppose. But you can put in pretty much all the basic chords that an organist would put in, just with your finger. You'll be using more than one finger. I'm just trying to remember what it was now. Yeah, we plough the fields and scatter. It was. I'll see if I can remember it. Yeah, I'll break it down as well as I go along. So that's the first note, but the harmony to it is. So you let the finger come down onto the D row. So there you go. Yeah, lots of stuff there you can possibly add into what you already play if it suits you to do that. Keeping it crisp is not easy. I can't do it. I probably, as I said earlier, if I'd started when I was younger, I might be able to manage that. But it makes a change. It's more fun to play. I think. Adds another dimension to your playing. Anyway, it's up to you. You can incorporate it or not. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you can always switch me off. Advantage of YouTube. Okay, well, I hope that's helped. Good luck. Okay.